Hi, friends. This is Wendy Harrop, and welcome to the Say Yes to Yourself podcast. On the Say Yes to Yourself podcast, you'll hear stories from women just like us who are adding the practice of saying yes in their daily lives in big and small ways, and as a result, are experiencing the truth that everybody wins when you say yes to yourself. Saying yes to yourself is a graceful unfolding, an intentional becoming of the very best version of you. It is my hope that in these conversations, we are able to find our truth and be inspired and empowered to live our very best lives. I'm so excited to go on this journey with you, and I look forward to finding a bit of our own story in each other's. Hey friends, welcome back to the podcast. I'm so excited to have you here, and I'm just giggling a bit to myself for two reasons. Today's guest is fabulous, but also I think that the last time I did a podcast introduction, which was for, who would have that been? I think Anna Morris. I was looking out the window and it was snowing, and it had me a little discombobulated. And that was literally 4 days ago at the time of this recording. And today it is sunny and glorious and yummy, and it is calling me outdoors. And all the peonies are 3 inches high, and I'm just so excited. And it's just making me giggle as I think about the last time that I talked to you. And it was snowing, and now it is beautiful and green, and the leaves are popping out, and it's only been 4 days. Okay, so the other reason for my giggle, today's guest, she's so delightful, Jenna Kinghorn. She lives in New England. She has a sweet little cottage in Rhode Island. Her Instagram, Le Petit Cottage, RI for Rhode Island, is just filled with inspiration and beautiful, beautiful eye candy of how she's decorated her home. She also sources pieces from France for her pop-up shops, and she does all of these beautiful antique and vintage find fairs in the area, and recently has purchased her own place in Normandy with her husband. So of course I had to meet her. I had to have a conversation with her. We had so much fun, and I cannot wait for you to hear from her. But she's so fabulous. I'm going to tell you a little bit of what she says about herself. Jenna is a blogger with an online shop, Blanc and Bleu, of vintage finds and lifestyle brands from her trips to France. She, with her husband and 4 kitties, live in a 1928 cottage in Riverside, Rhode Island, that they've been slowly restoring over the last 5 years, room by room. And they recently, on a whim, bought a cottage in Normandy that they are now renting out on Airbnb. She has launched a thrifting tour for this fall in Normandy for a small group of women. And her cottage was graciously featured in Fifi O'Neill's book, Small Spaces, Big Appeal, and in Joan of Arc Living magazine. So before I have you listen to this conversation, I want to tell you a little bit about her trip to Normandy. This is going to be in September. So if you are not coming to Paris with me and your favorite person that you like to share a hotel room with, because that one's for couples, or going to the Charente-Maritime, Normandy's on your heart, then you've got to check out her trip. So she's going to take women on an antique buying trip. So you're going to be thrifting at all of these fabulous shops that she has discovered as she's visited and is now a resident. She has all of these beautiful secret haunts, and it's just going to be a gorgeous, leisurely, enjoyable, dreamy 5 days, 4 nights in the beautiful French countryside. as she shows you all of her favorite spots and you collect fabulous treasures for your home. And then the end of that trip ends with this big show that's just outside of Paris that only happens twice a year. So if that is the way you like to go to France, by bringing only a few clothes and saving lots of space in your suitcase for all of the fabulous treasures, then definitely check out her trip. It's in September. And of course, we'll link it down in the show notes, as well as all of her other beautiful links to all the amazing things she's up to. But I can't wait to have you learn more. And who knows, you may already know her. I just met her. But sit back and relax and enjoy my conversation with Jenna of Le Petit Cottage. Sweet Jenna, I'm so over the moon to have this conversation with you. Dear listeners, I have never spoken to this woman beyond the 2 minutes that we spoke before I hit record, but I already know that I love her, and I already know that you love her, and I'm so excited for us all to find out why. Jenna, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
I'm so glad. I understand this is your very first podcast.
Yeah, I've never done a podcast before. So this is very new to me, new experience.
I am obsessed with being first. Not necessarily like I want to be leader of the pack, but I love if a woman has never done a live on Instagram, I tell her, I am your girl. I will go live. You join my live. I will show you how easy this is. It's so great. I love if someone is starting a new business, I want to be their first customer. I want to buy their first product. I'm just celebrating the yes that these kinds of steps are. And I completely recognize that on the before you've done it side, it can feel a little daunting. And then once you dip your toe in, you might just find yourself with a podcast of your own, Queen.
I know. I sometimes I do the lives on Instagram, and when I do them, I feel so weird. So this is different. So it's all good. Even when I dance on lives, I feel a little odd too. So because that's a new front for me now as well. So because you never know who's watching, and it's you're hoping people are watching. But...
Right. I mean, I sometimes think it's just my mom. So at least I know she loves me and she's a super fan. So I'm just going to talk to her. And then it turns out that other people are listening and watching also, which is such a treat.
Exactly.
And you are doing such beautiful things in the world that I want to hear more about, and I want all of our listeners to find out about. But I am going to start with asking you the question that I think I ask everybody, and then sometimes at the end of the conversation have realized that I have not even asked them the one question. So I'm being mindful of that. And I would love to ask, how are you saying yes to yourself in this season?
That's a good question. I think one of the things that I'm saying yes to is not overwhelming myself and not tackling so much. I tend to put a lot on my plate, whether it be house stuff, social media stuff, work stuff, the whole 9 yards. And I think I turned 50 last year. So I learned that you can't do everything for everyone, and you can't do everything all the time. So I think I've made more of a conscious effort to not say yes, but say no.
Right?
Because there's more to quality life. And I think part of that had to do with, I think, from us going to France so often to our house there and seeing their lifestyle and just the sense of calm and peace and joie de vivre that is about living, and then coming back here and going, what the heck? you just start to look at life a little bit differently and learning that you know, by saying no, you really are saying yes to yourself and to your quality of life and your family life and your peace of mind and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's, you know, that's a lot for me because I would take a lot on to the point where I'd be posting on Instagram saying, I need to disconnect for a little while because I need to sleep. I need to rest. I'm like exhausted. Or I was making myself like physically sick, you know, and yeah, and I think I finally have learned that lesson, which, you know, took me 50 years, but hey, what the
Well, you know it now, which is really important. And that was such a beautiful answer. Thank you. And I have many questions as a result, as you can imagine. First of all, it was not my first question, but you just said it. And I just think this is really juicy and interesting. And again, this may be a little deep for our very first conversation ever. So feel free to not respond to this question if you don't feel like you have an answer. But you made a mention that you were saying yes to all the to-dos and that you found yourself overwhelmed and at the end of your rope, and you found yourself in a place where you, quote unquote, had to say on social media, I'm going to take a break. And I'm really interested to know, what was the motivation for sharing your needs to take a break? Was it out of community? Was it out of asking permission? I'm just wondering, because I feel like, and I don't want to project onto you, but what happens for me is I get a ton of validation from that beautiful community on Instagram. And I tend to outsource my personal definition of worthiness, I guess. I'm in a reflection mode right now of, where am I not holding space for myself? Where am I? Because it is my desire to hold space for women that are holding space for themselves. Like, that's what I do. And what am I doing for me when I don't have guests of the bed and breakfast, and when I'm not taking women on a trip to France, and when I don't have someone's beautiful, gorgeous baby shower or field dinner on the calendar, and Amelia is at her dad's? What am I doing to provide retreat and solace and love and attention to myself? And where does that intersect with sharing that and asking permission for it and feeling like I'm allowed? That was really loaded. Sorry.
You know what I think what it is, you know, obviously we came up in a time where there was no social media.
Mm-hmm.
And I think looking at social media, so many people do use it as validation. And, you know, I love my followers. You know, my followers are organic. I didn't buy them. I didn't do any of these, you know, chain gang things. Like, you know, these are all people who naturally found me on Instagram and said, hey, you know what? I want to follow you. So I appreciate every single one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I got almost at 9,000 followers. That, I mean, I don't know personally 9,000 people. I'm lucky if I know 9 people.
Congratulations. That's huge.
That's huge. But I think, you know, and I'm going to say this is true. I did at one point get caught up in the algorithm metrics of it. So I think that we all, at some point,
Sure.
we all do, we're like, why do we have enough followers? Why do I have to get 10,000 to get this? You know, I think at some point you need to go enough. And I don't want to say it's more of a tool for me, but I kind of now use it as an extension of my blogging, which I've started up again. But, you know, that in your feed, you would see like you have to post 3 times or, 3 reels a week or 5 times a week in order to keep your followers and this, that, and the other. And there was a lot of pressure
Mm-hmm.
to, keep up with it. And, you know, to be honest, I had to really look at what is the return on the investment. Is it generating an income for me? To be honest, not really.
Right. Right.
Is it, paying my bills? Is it, like what is the return on the investment? And to me, it was having to say, look, I need to step back. I have a pop-up coming up and I am, pardon my French, you know what to do.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And, I got to get it done. And I can't be showing you the behind the scenes of it because I really just got to get it done. Sometimes you just got to get stuff done. And, me stepping, saying, hey, be right back or taking a break or, whether it be that or, you know what, I need to spend quality time with my husband. I'm not going to show you everything we're doing on vacation or what we're doing all the time because I have things going on at home. Not everything has to be public. And I think taking that moment and saying, look, I need to step away. I hope you're here when I get back. If you're here, great. If you're not, that's okay too. You know what I mean? And we just need to have those moments where we say that because our social media shouldn't be our validation.
Right. And I do want to clarify what I said, just even for myself, like as I think about it. This is my therapy, by the way. One of the many forms of therapy that I am actually in, but I am a verbal processor. And I was using it for validation because I was not getting that inside my own house.
Yeah.
And it was a tool that it sustained me. It sustained me during the pandemic,
Oh,
and it actually empowered that. It was a part of my journey to empowerment to say, what's happening in my house does not delight me, and I am only available for what delights me. So I invite you to encourage me as much as these strangers on this little square do, or please find something that makes you happy. And if that's not inside this house, you are free to go, sir. And he chose to go. And I am finding validation in myself. But I'm just saying at the beginning, it 100% was meeting a need that was not being met by myself or in my marriage.
and I think, and some people are in that situation, and some people, are looking at it as like a self-esteem kind of thing as
Right.
well. And are there times that I was looking at it as that? Absolutely, absolutely. Like,
Totally.
my decor good enough? Was, my garden good enough? Was the furniture piece that I just did, was that good enough? And I think we all fall into that at some point. But then I think, and I feel like, especially with the younger generation, that it's even worse. But because they've also grown up with this, where we grew up with other forms of communication,
Yes.
like, when you wanted to talk to someone, you picked up the rotary phone.
That's right.
We've been through so much of technology, but I think social media can be a positive tool
Totally.
if it's used that way. And for me, that's what I do. I'm sort of like the Switzerland. I don't show you perfection.
Right.
It's all about authenticity. You know what? Like my posting this morning was, yes, the sun was flowing into my dining room, but look at all the dishes that are on the kitchen counter behind it. you know, the cat food that's on the floor.
Right.
Even though I have this great bowl, they still drop the cat food on the floor. So, like, to me, it's the authenticity. I can show you beautiful things,
Mhm.
but behind those beautiful things, there's a mess. And
Right.
that's life.
Right. Like, yeah, we've curated our
Mhm.
life. We're not curating
No.
our feed. We are we are showing what is actually happening. And similarly to me here, I'm now a single mom running this farm by myself, and there's no prize. There is no prize for doing this all by yourself. And I thought that I had to, first of all, because I'm the one that said I wanted to keep the house. So that means we make these things mean so much that it's not accurate. But I made that mean that I need to do it all myself. So it took a long time. This is my second year doing this that I've decided, oh, I want help and I need help and I desire help and I am allowed to have help. And if somebody, which again, I don't even think this really happens, which was one of the things I wanted to ask you, in my mind, I think if somebody is only following me because they think I do this all myself, like there's there would actually be no time for any posting if I was in fact doing all of this myself. And that's why sometimes there's long breaks of I'm not showing up on social because I actually don't need another thing bossing me around or what I'm supposed to be doing right now because I've got peonies and weeds and grass and leaves and cats and chickens and people and dust and sheets that need to be ironed. And oh my gosh, like there's so many things that I can't have that boss me around. So my question for you, and I honestly don't think anyone cares. I think they're happy when they happen to see my feed, which is whatever, 6% of our followers see anything. Okay. And I don't think anyone's mad or necessarily thinks I stepped away. They might even think they stepped away. They might even think, oh, who knows what they think? They are probably not thinking about me. They're probably thinking about them. So I'm just wondering how your thought process was it informed with beliefs that were only on the inside of your mind, or were there actual people saying, hey, I want to see what you guys are doing. I'm living my life vicariously through you and I need a hit. Like how did that play out for you?
Actually, it's a little bit of both because I do have those followers on social media that are like, show me everything, tell me everything. It's probably about like 1% of those hardcore people who even they do say they live vicariously um through us. I mean, especially even like when the book came out, like um how many people wanted the book and got to see like all pretty much everything in the cottage, and they were all excited because you know, they feel like they really, really know you. Um I mean,
Right.
I was in Home Goods, it was like a month ago, and this lady was staring at me, and turns out she's a follower. She's
I
a local
love that.
follower, and she's like, "Oh my god, you're in the boutique cottage! Oh my god, oh my god!" And I'm just like, "Hi."
How did that make you feel? Because that's happened to me. I've had someone say, are you Wendy Harrop with the Phineas Wright House? Because that's how I introduce myself every single time. And I said, I am. And she said, oh my gosh, I'm fangirling right now. And I said, I'm fangirling that you're fangirling. Like that is, my mind is blown. My heart is exploding. I'm so excited. It's beautiful. How does that make you feel? Are you introverted? Are you extroverted?
And when it comes to that, I'm very introverted. I'm just kind of like, okay, this is weird. I mean, because you don't. I mean, personally, I don't know how necessary. I'm like, oh, hi, thanks so much, yay! Like, it just to me, it always, not that I don't appreciate the fact that
Of course.
they recognize me, but it feels weird because it is kind of like you had this famous moment, and I don't feel famous in any way, shape, or form. So, you know, I appreciate this scenario. Um, but
Of
it just
course.
because it's weird because and it's also depending on in what context they follow me, because there is the Le Petit Cottage, but then there's my business Blanc and Blue. And a lot of my followers on Blanc and Blue don't necessarily follow me on Le Petit Cottage. So when I'm doing my pop-ups, that's my Blanc and Blue followers. And they're all excited to see me in person and, you know, see the stuff I've curated and all that kind of stuff. But um it's a very different experience because I'm in my, you know, customer service mode. Like
Right.
it's the meet and the greet and the, you know, because I'm in my selling, you know, that kind of environment where I'm at Home Goods looking at napkins and someone comes up to me and says, "Oh my god, oh my god," you know, or they like it, you know, whether it's the book or the article or the magazine articles or what have you. So that's always a fun. I mean, actually, I had a fangirl moment picking something up from a Facebook Marketplace person last week too. It was again a weird experience. She's like, "Oh my god, are you selling this? Or are you keeping it?" Or like, because apparently she follows me on both. And
Oh my
yeah, so
gosh.
I was like, "No, it's for our cottage, at least for now." And she was all excited that it was going to be on social media, you know, at our cottage. So
Right. She's going to be looking at every single one of your posts to see when you post a picture of the thing that used to be in her house.
exactly. So
It's amazing. Oh my gosh, it's so funny. I just think it's fascinating, different personality types, and I understand that introversion is a thing because I have a fair grasp on the English language, and yet I have no idea what that is like.
mhm.
So I'm fascinated to hear what your experience is. And I just think it's so great for me to be reminded that everybody on social that's doing something that appeals to me or in some way interacts with the things that I'm doing, they're not the same person, and they are not, you know, taking it all in the same way. And, you know, I would look maybe using my own grid, which everybody is doing, look and see, oh my gosh, you've written a book, you have a blog, you have a pop-up shop, you have a place in Normandy, you live in Rhode Island, you like do all this stuff, you have a bazillion followers. Of course, you wouldn't say yes to being on my podcast because I'm just little. And, you know, so it's just, everything goes through everybody's grid. And I love knowing that you have created this beautiful empire.
Okay.
And
that that's really stretching it.
in my world, it's an empire.
Agree.
Um, and and so I think it's just fascinating how it develops us and can be a really graceful unfolding because of social media, because of blogging. You were able to share with a large amount of people and still feel safe and held and integrated with yourself as an introverted person. You didn't have to stand on the street corner or be at every craft fair, you know, yelling your story, whatever. I don't know, whatever extroverts do, whatever I would do if there wasn't social media. It's just, I think it's really beautiful. It's a great opportunity that gives everybody access to you, and it gives you access to this beautiful community that loves what you're providing for them.
I think, you know, I think it's being your authentic self, you know,
Mhm.
coming up, you know, when I when I do a story or I do, well, not necessarily when I do a live. When I do a live, I actually make the effort and make myself pretty. Um, but when sometimes my stories, it's, this is what I look like. This is how it is, and, um, I'll do them in my PJs and I'm like, hey, I just need to share something with you guys. Or I'm out in the garden covered in dirt and dirt on my face. And I'll come in and my husband goes, did you go on Instagram looking like that? He's like, you got dirt on your face. I was like, oh, yeah, okay, cool. I think that's what it is. I think that, you know, and that's probably the media itself saying that social media is all about perfectionism and it's overdoing it and so on. And you're right, there is a lot of that, but there's a lot of genuine people on Instagram, authentic people on the Instagram who are sharing their ups and downs and everything in between. And I think that that is the positive part of Instagram and social media itself. Like I'm not on TikTok. Like TikTok is weird. TikTok is weird. It's full of people falling off of stuff and cat videos.
Okay.
That's pretty much what it is. And Twitter has become so controversial, I think, because it's just everyone's got to fight over each other's opinions. So I'm not on Twitter. I am on the main one I'm on is Instagram because I think like the evolution of Instagram with the stories and the lives and obviously it started out with beautiful pictures, gone to videos and so on and so forth. I think you have a plethora of ways to communicate with each other in honestly a positive way on Instagram where it's too much about your 15 minutes of fame on TikTok. Facebook is when you want to talk to your grandmother.
Exactly.
Literally, I think it was like within the past 6 or 8 months, just finally set up my Le Petit Cottage Facebook account because I know there were some people that kept saying to me, I'm not on Instagram. I'm like, how can you not be on Instagram but be on Facebook?
Right.
But there are some people who are old school and are just on Facebook. But for me, I think you have more tools at your disposal with Instagram than you do with the other social media aspects of it. And like I said, my following has been organic. It's, it started out 5 years ago, actually, and 5 years ago in January, as just I was almost using it as a blog in a sense to document us buying a house and our house actually. And it wasn't even the cottage that we were in. We were actually looking at another house, which basically needed to be bulldozed to the ground. And we had started the process on it and that fell through. And then we ended up finding this house. And so it turned into this. And it started out as just being, this is our house and this is the evolution and the whole, and it just kept growing and growing and growing. And then it was like 1,000 followers and then 5,000 followers and now almost 10,000 followers. And it's been interesting to see all the people who actually follow me and for where they follow me too. It's, to find out that I have people in France, in the UK, in Australia, in Thailand, in New Zealand, all these places that follow me, which is kind of neat. It's not just Rhode Island. It's not just Massachusetts, not like my surroundings, I'm, followers from Canada and California and everywhere in between. I think that's kind of a neat thing,
It's beautiful. And we could not have accomplished that kind of reach and be aware of it without this.
Yeah.
Right? Because even if, obviously, you've sold X number of books, but you don't know who you sold them to. So this way it gives you the ability to track geographically where these people are, and it's amazing. So I love it. I've had a couple of unfortunate experiences on Instagram, but I haven't had anything nasty or awful or anything. And I'm also just not available for it.
Yeah, so I've been on social media since 2019 on Instagram. I can
Mhm.
count on one hand in 5 years and I'm going to call them grr experiences that I've had on there. And to me, it's kind of like, you know, at first I step back and I go, really? You spent your energy writing that to me? And then I'm like,
Right.
whatever, whatever. If that made you happy to send that or do that or what have you, then what else? I
Right.
think too many, I've had a few people who I'm friendly with on social media that get so upset about some of the comments and then they choose to, then repost those comments. Yeah, I
Mm.
see you're making the face. Uh, they repost it to share. And I think it's almost kind of like, I don't want to use the term pity party, but in a sense, it kind of to me does feel like a pity party because it's like, okay, you're trying to get everyone on your side
Right.
versus just letting go, just let
Right.
it go. It takes more energy to be upset and angry than it does to just let it go.
Right. Agreed.
And
Agreed.
so, but yeah, I can literally count in 5 years. I've had three things. Two people I blocked. And then one person I was just like, whatever.
Yep.
So, but yeah, otherwise it's been, people have been nice. People have been cheerful and supportive and, you know, excited,
Right.
all that kind of stuff. So,
It's beautiful. Now tell me about, okay, so you bought this cottage in Rhode Island. It's darling. You have beautiful design aesthetic. Did you go to design school? Does this just come naturally? How did that evolve?
um, honestly, I did not go to design school. I think a lot of it had to do with my retail background. I was in retail for 25 years. Um, Started as a stock person and I left it as an executive sales manager and I worked everything in between. And I think so, from a display perspective, just that, seeing what works, what not doesn't work, I mean, when you work in the fashion industry, you have to have some sort of style and taste and that kind of thing. So I think it just came naturally. But yeah, I mean, I'll put something together and stand back and look at it and go, not right.
Right?
And then, just needs a little tweak here or there and go from there. Like, this is the year for, I decided that we were gonna basically put finishing touches or finish things in each and every room. Trying to do
Mm.
one room at a time per month. So like January was the porch. The porch is probably my number one most liked picture on Instagram. It almost was the cover of the book, of Fifi's book, if Teddy had been 6 inches to the left, because he was too far over the way that the book worked. It wouldn't have been in the thing. So,
Explain who Fifi and Teddy
oh, so
are and tell us about the book.
Fifi Neal is this amazing interiors author. She's done my very I have a bunch of her books. And I met her through my friend Elise, who is a writer. She's done things for Better Homes and Gardens. She's actually the editor in chief of all of the Providence media. So Providence Monthly, Hey Roadie, East Bay Magazine, like all that kind of stuff. So I met her through Elise because she was looking for houses to for her upcoming book, and it was all houses under 1,000 square feet. And the book is called Small Spaces, Big Appeal, and it's available at wherever books are sold. You can get it on Amazon. And she came not last year, but the year before. Yes, because the book came out last year. So it was 2 years, yeah, because the book came out last year. She came in October of 2022, and they were here for 2 days shooting everything. And Phoebe's so funny. She's from France, by the way. Phoebe is.
Oh.
And she she basically said to me, "This is one of the easiest shoots I've ever had to do because I don't need to style anything." So, which I took as a huge compliment, because her books are just meticulous. And actually, she just had a new book that came out called Romantic Homes. Actually doing another book that's coming out for French style homes. So I'm excited for that book. But yeah, so she was here for 2 days, and one of the pictures that they took was of the porch, which is probably, between this room and my husband's room, has seen the biggest change. Well, actually, in the bathroom has seen the biggest change from when we bought it. And yeah, so the cover was supposed to be that, because the picture was awesome. They got our Teddy, who's one of our kitties, one of our 4 kitties, and he was on the day bed looking out the window, but then I called his name and he turned, and so they got him facing forward. And it's like, so in the book, the section is called True Blue, and that's the first picture of the section. And she's like, yeah, it was almost the book cover. So because it wasn't the book cover, she actually, all the different magazines that featured the book featured the True Blue section of the article. Oh. So we got basically double exposure. We got the book, and then we were in magazines. So which is kind of cool. And that has never happened to me before either. So
that's amazing. And then how did you expand your land holdings to have a place in Normandy? You have an empire and you're a land baroness. Aren't you glad we've met?
So that, believe it or not, is not me. That was my husband. So so after lockdown, we had our first trip abroad again was to Scotland for a wedding. And my husband had said to me while we were there, he goes, "I owe you a trip again to France," because we hadn't been in a while. We had gone obviously before lockdown. And he said, "Do you want to go to Paris again? We'll rent an apartment like we do, in the whole 9 yards." And I said to him, we always talked about going to the countryside, like, taking the train from Paris out to Normandy, because my husband is from Scotland and he's always wanted to go to see the World War II beaches. And I said, why don't we, instead of staying in Paris, I said, let's stay somewhere in the countryside. Because during lockdown, we were all on social media, and I was following all these people who had homes in the countryside, from, Charlotte, from BB Margot, to Jane from Jane Webster. And
we used to co-host this podcast when I first started.
Oh, wow, that's so cool. Yeah. That's so cool. And then like Kat from Kat and France. So it's like, I'm like looking at all of, how idyllic the countryside is. And I was like, let me find somewhere. And it was somebody I was following on Instagram. Anyways, I forget how I ended up following her. And they had Jeep rentals. And for everybody who doesn't know what a Jeep is, it's a cottage in France. And so I found the place, picked it, booked it. And then while we were there, I think it was like the 4th or 5th day we were there, my husband goes, "We're going to go look at a house." Oh. And I was like, "Excuse me?" He's like, "Yeah, we're going to go look at a house." So the backstory on that was, my husband, probably like for the past 2 years prior to that, was just putting second homes in like a safe folder. Some in France, some in the UK. And unbeknownst to him, the gîte that I picked was 10 minutes away from one of his saved cottages. I was out and about thrifting. He, just for giggles, reached out to the real estate agent to see if it was still available. And they're like, oh, yeah, we can meet you there on Thursday. And he's like, you're going to go thrifting? I was like, yeah. I was like, no, we're going to go look at a house. And I just kind of gave him this look like, excuse me, what, huh? What? And next thing I know, we're driving down this windy little path with the trees coming over it. And honestly, it was so overgrown.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't the dreamer loves it. It's perfect.
We, pull in and we're walking down the hill. And next thing you know, we're looking at cottage, because there were 2 cottages in this particular section that were for sale. We go and look at the first cottage, then we go down and look at the second cottage. And then my husband looks at me, he's like, what do you think? And I looked at him and I go, I think you're crazy.
I love him.
That was on a Thursday. Friday, we put the offer in. Saturday, we got on a plane to come home. Sunday, the offer was accepted. Monday, I'm looking at 400 pages of French paperwork.
Right. How did that go?
So that's the thing about buying a house in France. I think everyone feels like it's like an easy process. There are, especially if you are a foreigner, and for us, it was even, I don't want to say a little bit more challenging, because my husband is a UK citizen and I'm a US citizen.
Mm-hmm.
So it just can be really challenging from a paperwork perspective. But buying a house there isn't as fast as buying a house here. There's the initial offer. Then there is the evaluation of the property. And then there is what's called a cooling off period. So this is an opportunity for you to change your mind. And I think it's like a 2-month or 3-month window. When did we go? It takes at least 6 months, to buy a house in France. And also depending on the area that you're in, like with Normandy, not that they're discouraging foreigners from buying houses there. They're just making it a little bit more challenging. One of the things in order to own a home in France is you have to have a French bank account. So you have to have one, or not necessarily a French bank, but a bank account with an IBAN number. It can't be a U.S. bank account. It has to be an IBAN number. So
okay,
we could only find one bank in all of Normandy that would open an account to a U.S. citizen and a UK citizen joint bank account. One whole bank in all of Normandy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, how beautiful that you knew that was your bank.
I know. It took us a while to figure it out. Well, we figured it out. But yeah, so we closed the week of Bastille Day, which was kind of fun. And yeah, and then that following August, we went out there to start working on it. And every trip we go there, we work on something, on something at the cottage. So whether, there was the inside or the outside or anything like that. So, but it's now, this is, and actually the past 2 years, or a year and a half, I should say, we were hemming and hawing about renting it out to people, because we're like, oh, this is our place. And do we want to do that? And, so we sort of did a little test run with me renting it to some people who are local. And then, we finally made the decision this year. So it's now available for rent. So yeah. And we've already had several bookings and it's available on Airbnb.
Oh, congratulations. That's amazing.
We're excited by it.
Right. So how much time are you spending in Normandy and the US? How is that working for you now that you have property?
Well, last year I was there 3 times. And it usually go for about 2 weeks each time.
Okay.
This year we were only there for 7 days in February. It was a really quick visit, just because of timing and things that were going on here. But Ian and I have talked about actually going there and actually spending like longer, because you have up to 90 days to spend there. You
Right.
need a special visa. The problem is our kitty. Our
Right.
kitty cat.
You have 4 kitties, is that right?
We have 4. So Agnes, Charlotte, Teddy, and Remington. So having, family stay to watch, that's asking a lot of people. So, and we'd like to try and go there together as much as possible. But a couple of those trips last year, I ended up going by myself or with a friend, a couple of girlfriends, just so that I wasn't, Ian was like, just so you're not by yourself.
Well, I'm sure they were thrilled to accompany you.
Absolutely. I put them to work though.
I just interviewed this woman, Anna Morris, for the podcast, and she said something that was really profound for me to hear, because I didn't realize that it was true until she said it, that people are most filled with joy when they are in contribution, when they are in service. Because I was mentioning how when someone comes to do a farm stay, they can, if they want to collect the eggs or cut some flowers, or if they want to sit on the patio and watch me pull weeds. And she said, oh no, they want to pull weeds. And if they want to pull weeds, you should let them pull weeds, because we are most in our bliss when we are in contribution.
Exactly. Especially if there's a nice glass of rosé at the end.
Every time.
Sit on the porch, look at the sunset, and you're all good.
It sounds like the ending of a perfect day.
It is.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for your time, Jenna. I have loved getting to know you, learning of all of these fabulous things that you're up to. Please tell everyone where they can find and follow you, and if there's anything coming up next that we should know about.
You can follow me on Instagram. So it's La Petite Cottage, and it's petite with an E, and I will explain why. Because technically the correct French way to say it is La Petite Cottage. But it's petite with an E because it was taken on Instagram. So I did the feminine mixed with the masculine. So La Petite Cottage on Instagram, all one word. They can follow me there. For those who are local, I am doing a pop-up at the Bristol Vintage Market in Bristol, Rhode Island at Mount Hope Farm on Mother's Day weekend. It's a 2-day event. So they could come and shop all my fun finds from France. I have market baskets and French soaps and antiques and all that kind of stuff. So that's for if you're local. And then they can also, I'm on Substack, so they can follow the blog there. And then the other big thing I have is I'm having my own little tour in Normandy in the fall. So, which is, on the website as well. The links are on my Instagram profile. But yeah, we're going to be doing a lot of thrifting in September. So it's for 5 days, everything included except your airfare. And we're going to go all over Normandy and thrift and see beautiful things and eat croissant and drink wine and have a blast.
Brilliant in every way. So fun. So fun. Oh my gosh, I love our lives.
It's good. It's all good.
It's really fun to be us.
Very much so.
Well, thank you so much. And I look forward to chatting with you again soon.
Absolutely. Great. Thank you for having me.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. As always, any links or notes mentioned can be found at phineaswrighthouse.com in the podcast section of our site or in the show notes below.
And if you haven't connected with me personally, come find me on Instagram at Phineas Wright House and let me know you listened to this episode. I'd love to get to know you. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I know your days are full, and I'm really grateful that you chose to spend some of your precious time right here. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any of these delightful conversations. I'll see you next week.